listen, Biden loves this. Biden can't go out on stage without making some horrible blunder. I mean, even from his basement, he's making awful gaffes every single day. So his campaign's thrilled that he's not going out there. And they think they're taking away Donald Trump's greatest tool, which is being able to go into an arena and fill it with 50,000 people every single time, right? So they will, and you watch, they'll milk it every single day between now and November 3rd. And guess what? After November 3rd, coronavirus will magically all of a sudden go away and disappear, and everybody will be able to reopen. They're trying to deprive him of his greatest asset, which is the fact that the American people love him, the fact that he's relatable, the fact that he can go out there and draw massive crowds. Joe Biden can't get 10 people in a room. My father's getting 50,000 in a room, and they want to do everything they can to stop it. So make no mistake, to a lot of them, Janine, to a lot of them, this is a very cognizant strategy that they're trying to employ. It's no different than, again, the nonsense that they're trying to throw in the HOPE Act. It's no different than the mail-in voting that they want to do all these places. It's no different than wanting illegal immigrants to vote in our country. It is a cognizant strategy. And it's sad. And again, it's not going to be allowed to happen. We're going to win in November.
That right there is why the Trump campaign generally doesn't use Eric Trump as a surrogate, because that was, to put it mildly, an absolute dumpster fire of an interview. First of all, Eric Trump claims that coronavirus is just some excuse to help promote the Democrats' brilliant master plan, which is to deprive Donald Trump of rallies. Only, there's just the small matter that Democratic candidates are also deprived of all of their own rallies. Yeah, the big strategy on the left was to make sure that in an election where we need to flip 4 Senate seats for control of the chamber and actually win the presidency, we would take away campaigning. By the way, Trump hasn't been without his campaign rallies. He's appeared on TV every day for months, spouting the exact same talking points he would as if he were on stage in some arena. We hear about how no one's accomplished more than him, how he saved so many lives with his quick action, how Obama and Biden should be locked up. He was so hellbent on continuing to hold these rallies in any form possible that he literally hijacked pandemic task force briefings to brag about how he's #1 on Facebook. So let's not pretend for a minute that the guy hasn't been falling over himself to get the adulation that he so desperately craves. But leagues worse is this notion by Eric Trump that, quote, after November 3rd, coronavirus will magically go away and disappear and everyone will be able to reopen. The guy actually thinks that the global pandemic that has killed over 90,000 Americans doesn't exist, other than as a fear-mongering tactic used by the Democrats to deprive his father of holding rallies. Someone might want to tell Eric that the reason we aren't holding rallies is because that's how coronavirus spreads. So unless he and his father are looking to expose as many of their supporters as possible to a deadly virus, all for some applause at a rally, which, mind you, I don't think is entirely impossible, then they should probably avoid large gatherings if they want people to survive. Eric even likens this to another apparently corrupt scheme by the Democrats and brings up mail-in voting. Now, not only is there zero evidence that mail-in voting leads or has ever led to fraud, but Donald Trump himself just voted by mail in the Florida primary. Apparently it was fine when he needed to do it, but when anyone else wants to do it, well, suddenly they're part of a grand scheme to rig the election. Convenient, huh? What this is just more of the same victim complex that we've come to expect from this administration, and this family in particular. Only the Trump family would view a global pandemic as a personal ploy against them. And that's made even crazier by the fact that this outbreak within the United States was exacerbated by Donald Trump's inaction. If Trump had bothered to listen to experts and take swift action and advocate for social distancing and contact tracing and nationwide testing, this wouldn't even be a fraction of the issue it is now. But instead, he opted to downplay the virus, to call it a Democrat hoax like impeachment of the Russia probe, to pretend that it was just like the flu, that it would go away with the heat in April, that it would miraculously disappear, that it was contained, that cases would soon be down to 0. In other words, this same virus that Eric Trump is claiming is some made-up weapon to hurt his dad was actually compounded exponentially by his dad. How's that for irony? Instead of complaining about campaign rallies, the Trump family might want to at least pretend to care about the more than 90,000 Americans lost to the virus, in large part due to their own father's piss-poor handling of the US response. Because I get that they need to be seen as the perpetual victims, but the actual victims here are nurses and doctors. They're the elderly and immunocompromised, they're cashiers and retail clerks and essential workers, they're neighbors and family members who, by no fault of their own, contracted a deadly virus that the president's son is pretending doesn't doesn't exist. Those are the real victims here. So excuse me if we're not mourning the loss of Donald Trump's campaign rallies.